Hi, my name is Nicole Rodriguez. I'm the CEO and founder of Diva Modeling and Events, one of the largest talent agencies in the region. And we've got other verticals within the firm as well, where we have film print production, we've got promotion activation, fashion events. I also own several other businesses, one of which is called Diva Development, which is predominantly in the ultra high-end sort of real estate space. And then I've got Diva Contracting, which is a contractual company as well. I am so grateful and thankful, Tariq, for having me here on the Voices for the Future.
Nicole, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you, and my deep gratitude to you as a friend from many, many years. And it's a real privilege for you to have you here. You are a prize-winning and a trailblazing entrepreneur and a person who, like you said, you keep breaking the rules, keep starting new things. You are a true and genuine game changer. And we have, with admiration, been seeing you from a distance, all the wonderful things you're doing. But more recently, since I have met you again, I've discovered your humanity. I've discovered your more human connection, and it's amazing how you've evolved. So it's good to have you on Voices of the Future to share your experiences, but also to share your humanity. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me again, Tariq.
Nicole, in typical Bollywood style, let's do a little flashback. Flashback, okay. Flashback into little Nicole. Was little Nicole naughty? Was she getting herself into trouble? Was she jumping and falling off trees? Or was she just a good little girl and, playing with dolls and Barbie dolls and stuff like that?
I think, no, definitely. I was a super hyper kid. I applaud my parents for being able to handle me. I had a mind of my own. Fortunately for me, I had a father I still have a father, who was globally exposed and gave me a lot of freedom and a lot of trust in terms of, being me and not, didn't try to make me, stick to the sort of conventional ways of how girls should be back home in India. So I was very fortunate in a lot of ways because I was, globally exposed very young and I was taught a lot of things. Okay, yeah, it is true that they were very hard because that was a time that every parent was hard on their kids. And it was quite common to spank your kids if they didn't get what you want them to get. And education was a big one in our family. So for my father being a mechanical engineer, he was the prime, for him, his biggest responsibility was that he educated me and my brother. So he said, maybe I might not give you enough money, but I will give you education and I will give you everything you will need for the rest of your life. And I think that is so important. And that's something I always want to pass on to my children as well, that you can do what you want, but you've got to get your education in order because that's going to take you places tomorrow. I was an extremely hyper kid. Maybe, we had medicine like we do today, and I would probably have dyslexia, ADHD, and probably I'm tested for everything maybe.
Yeah.
And being a girl, I was expected to sort of fit in, but I didn't fit in at all. I was more like the boys. I was more like a tomboy. My hair was also very short, cut short. So I didn't even see, the sort of difference between a boy and a girl till like much later in life. My grandfather, my mother's father was an entrepreneur as well, a very successful entrepreneur, A.G. Lopez and Sons. And so we saw like sort of businesses and very successful businesses and at a very young age. But then he passed away, and then we sort of also saw how things sort of disappear very quickly, and end up in court cases and lose things, especially in Kerala, where to a large extent a lot of things were more communist, but that was okay. I was born in Bombay, so a lot of exposure to the media space as well. So that was my growing up years.
So was there any moment, anything that ignited you, anybody who sort of fundamentally made a difference in your life that helped to shape you to become who you are today?
Well, I definitely think my earlier years was my father, because I always felt that, he is very well spoken. He's extremely intelligent. He used to read a lot. He's a hardcore academic. So there could be anything, any topic you bring up, and he'd be able to talk about it and have a conversation. today's a different story, but but you know, I always looked up to him, and I was always my father's girl. He was a great father. So and he was always there. And I think that's huge. I think some of the greatest things that my mother and father gave me was that they are always there as my parents. I don't really need them, but the fact that I know that they're there is, you know, sort of makes you feel more confident and sort of stable, you know, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely stable and secure, and I think you
Yeah,
mentioned something
sure.
about you mentioned something about education, the fact that they were giving you education, but more than education, even, and I'm just pushing you back on this one. I think they gave you a sense of value and a balance within that core value system, which hopefully, in my view, probably gave you more of a backbone than even your education. Things like authenticity, things like love, things like stability, things like the entrepreneurial spirit, things like honesty. Those to me are actually even more important than education. What do you think?
I agree. I agree. Totally agree. That's where my mother comes in. So my mother
Yeah,
being, like I said earlier, from a business background, and I think that, you know, these values definitely came from my mother,
yeah,
in terms of like, you know, understanding business ethics, you know, dealing with people, how to be a hustler, you know, I mean, things like that. Definitely my mom. I mean, yes, my dad is an academic. Like I said earlier, I was, you know, big fan of him. Great. It's all nice in that whole sort of, you know, space of like fantasy. But when it comes
yeah.
to reality, my mother's drive, her hard work, her being, you know, in touch with reality. I think that aspect is what I get from my mother. Okay, I wouldn't say loosely used, but I think like a lot of times, values are something we keep learning as we grow. I don't think values is passed on from a parent to a child. I think that values are experiences that we, you know, pick up during our life, you know, time, and then we understand the importance of, or we understand or realize the relevance and how we want to either implement them into our lives or not.
Mm.
And because I don't think I'm anything like either my mother or my father today. I'm a great combination of the two, but not one of, you know. And I mean, a lot of value systems that they have, I do not adhere to. I mean, they might say, okay, you know, you need to be culturally sort of respectful and do this according to the culture. I don't agree with it. My mother might say religiously, you might need to do this. I don't agree to it. It's also a value system. So I think value system is sort of, you know, I think that's something I learned with through all of different experiences, different work environments, you know, reading. These are some of the other places I've also received or build my own value system. And I think my value system keeps changing with time, because let's say what was important to me as a teen is not as important to me as a young adult, is not important to me as a mother, is not important to me as a, let's say, you know, not an older person, but yani, a mature adult.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. And to me, where I was going with that question was that there are some early constants, some early anchors. Like, you know, you live in an honest environment. That doesn't change. You're either honest or you're not. You don't, you're not situationally honest. So some of these things I picked up from my parents at a very early age. And it's interesting what you said that because there's something deep and meaningful that things change over time. To me, ethics, and when I used to present on ethics, to me, ethics was a constant. Ethics of so let me give you an example. 100 years ago, if you did a heart transplant, you would be considered like a witch doctor. Today, it's a miracle of life. 50 years ago, if in our parents' time we would do IVF treatment to create children, it would be considered inappropriate. Today, it's just routine. So that's our shift in our belief systems and our ethics, which is a very interesting point that you made there, and it made me reflect again. Fast forward into your new business, into you came in as a young, bright, beautiful woman here, uh, and you know you built Diva models and stuff. Can you give us those early days when you were hustling and in a young Dubai, which had a lot of challenges? What were your early experiences there?
So I think I've always been a hustler. I mean, I always wanted to build. I think when I was very young, I remember I used to go around trying to sell old magazines to people for like maybe 1/10 the price. So I mean, I used to try and buy clothes from somewhere and sell clothes somewhere else. So I was constantly trying to sort of do something. I'm not sure why, but I mean, if I look back, I just had the thought and I would just do it. But when I look at myself back and look at my time, I think, wow, that's very interesting that, at that age, somebody would do that. So it was but natural that I would come to Dubai, and I was very young when I started modeling as well. And of course, I had to like leave Bombay and go and fly because my father and mother would not accept me modeling because they thought it was, sort of demeaning for the sort of professional background that the family came from and sort of the family reputation, because there was this whole stigma that was attached to the sort of media industry, right? But I don't think that my generation saw a shift. I mean, my generation had like, you know, um, actors like Sushmita Sen and Aishwarya Rai, and these are my generation. We didn't really have to go through any of the casting couches or whatever used to be like 20 years ago, or not 20, but 40 years ago. And so we were very fortunate to be able to, enter a platform um, that was different and not really open to everyone. So we had the first movers advantage there. So when I came to Dubai and I wanted to start something, I always knew that I'm better off working for myself, because I like working like 20 hours a day. I don't see the point of like taking holidays or resting. I don't understand why people do that. I mean, each to their own, of course, but that's just me, and I enjoy it because I don't believe I ever work a single day because I'm always enjoying what I'm doing. So, I mean, whether it was in the media space with Diva models and, getting jobs for like other models or like being at like fashion shows and shoots, it was amazing because for me, I was like doing something and being in an industry I really love. So it was like, I would have done that for free as well. So I was just really fortunate to get paid for it. So it was only a matter of time that, I would wanted to set up something a bit more structured and safe for like young girls, in the region, to be able to come to and know that there's a woman behind there who's, respectful of her and her family values, and ensure that it's a safe platform for them to understand that there's actually a system when it comes to like usages, copyright, platforms, mediums, in terms of a half day, full day, rate cards, things like that. So Diva happened, and like I said, I mean, I've been very blessed. The universe has, send me the thought. I'm the doer. I get the thought and I do it. I just action it. I don't ask questions. I don't think. I don't make a big drama of it. I don't need perfection. I'll make mistakes and I'll keep fixing it as we go, and that's fine, because nature is not perfect. You'll never find two trees the same, right? So why would we have this great expectation of ourselves to be perfect? What is important that we give it our best. That's it. And then from there, and there needs to be corrections, we're happy to do that because we are human at the end of the day. So the fact that I could actually, help young talent in the region to be able to sort of, develop themselves, create their portfolios, be able to present themselves, train them, get them jobs, run their homes, was huge, huge, Yani, for me.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
kept me running a lot. Of course, at some point, I was like, okay, I need to also think about, and of course, I was making money. So it was, only a matter of time that I needed to invest this money, because I really didn't use it much because I was really working all the time. So I didn't really need to go out drinking and eating and dancing. So, yani, it was only a matter of fact of investing that money to something that was going to make me money. And I always knew that my money had to make money. It can't be sitting around because, of course, because of, my father, who taught me very young, he used to make me sit down and write down the share prices every day when I was like 9, 10. I had a bank account when I was 11 years old with 100 rupees that I'd go and deposit in my bank account, have we used to have like these bank deposit books, right? So I was
Yes.
exposed to
Yes.
banking system very young, the share market very young. So I understood that, you can have your money, make money as well. So I just kind of sort of replicated that. And then the real estate space was very interesting because I had a young baby when I came here, and I was like, okay, we've got to have a home. We can't be paying such huge rents. If we were to pay these rents 10 years, we'd actually own the house. So might as well just do that. And so I decided to go out and buy something here. And I remember we bought our first Springs house, and my ex-husband now, was, you know, really apprehensive. And he was like, you can't be buying something like this sand, you know, I mean, you can't just do that, you know, you're going to get into so much trouble. And I was like, no, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it. And within like a month later, you know, the price had appreciated like around, I think 10% or something of that sort in a month. And I thought, wow, this model current's like supersonic. It's better than a business model. You know, maybe I need to pump in more money in here. So
Yeah.
that's how the drive started with like Diva Holdings. And so simultaneously while I was, you know, doing my day job, you know, running Diva Modeling and Diva Events, and during the evenings, I would be sitting in like doing Diva Holdings and acquiring, you know, looking at what assets I want to acquire, and, you know, sort of coming back home and then doing up the place and then putting it back in the market and trying to sell it. And so, I mean, at any given point of time, I've always had 2 or 3, 4 different jobs, you know, that I give myself.
Yeah. So, a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and interesting what you're saying there. It's not about work-life; it's just life, and how you choose to live that life, and in what proportion is the way you live. So, I think this phrase that we constantly keep hearing about work-life, I find it not described entirely. My life is similar to yours in many ways, because everything just sort of merges, and everything just there are gray zones between work and life. Um, it's interesting how you started shaping your new things that were kept on happening, because you were in this forward momentum. You were in this zone of achievement and growth and development. What I find fascinating, and I've seen that in you, is scaling. A lot of people do stuff, and then they are worker bees, and they keep doing it and protecting their little business, and making sure it works, or their jobs you can get promoted in a job, but you can't really scale. But you have fundamentally scaled. What's your mindset when you go from 1 to 2, and then 2 to 4, and 4 to 8, and 8 to 16, and 16 to 32? Because that's the exponential curve that you have created in your life.
Right.
What's the mindset? Secondly, how do you engage with risk in your head? Thirdly, what happens when the shit hits the fan and things go wrong? How do you cope with that and with failure? What are your dynamics there?
Super. So I think there are quite a few things that we spoke about. Let me start with the first point about work and life balance. So to me, I have always had a very strong connection with the divine, or the universe, or God, as we call it. And it doesn't mean I'm ritual driven. I'm not. But I do pray, when I can, and I do sort of look into myself, sort of introspectively, look at and try to analyze what's going on. Now, number one is I believe that my work is my prayer. So when I work, I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet, serving, the community, humanity. So my prayer is not words, but my prayer is my service and my work. So I'm in constant prayer, number one. That comes to your work and life sort of thing. Why does somebody not tell you, don't pray all the time? Does anybody ever tell you that? No, right? But they tell you, don't work all the time. Why? My work is my prayer, Habibi. You know what I mean? Number one. And second point that you brought up was about scaling. Now, the thing what I have noticed, or I have sort of been very fortunate, is when I came here and I had the experience of having a 6-month baby. And I remember, running around asking for a job and trying to find a job. I was completely clueless. And I realized that I was on my own, and there was nobody who's going to come here and sort of babysit me and, look after everything very quickly. Life lesson. I knew that there was nobody else to depend on but myself. And, so it was very important for me to ensure that, if I were to have to look after my baby and myself, or my family, for that matter, I needed to ensure that we always had a safety net. So the importance of safety net was a very important goal. So if, while other people sort of go out and spend time with their friends and party and drink, I don't drink alcohol, for starters. If I go out, I'll go out, show my face, and I'll leave. You will never find me, sort of like overindulging in like extremely fancy sort of restaurants is not my thing. But I'd rather use, not that I don't want to, it doesn't interest me. You know what I mean? I mean, I'd rather use that time learning something new, or or developing myself, or, you know, creating better systems or reorganizing things. And it brings me great joy to sort of look back and say, wow, well done, you know. So I'm very good self-praise, yani self-patter for myself. And thirdly, I think it's very important to understand that we cannot attach to anything. When we attach to something, we become anxious, nervous, and our decisions are, we're not straight shooters. We start shaking while we're shooting, right? But when you don't attach to it and you've done your analysis, you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, you've calculated and looked at every option of how this could go wrong and sort of have a secondary, you know, thing in place to ensure that, you know, you've got a plan of action for it, and then you shoot, you don't go wrong. So I think that, you know, you've got to, it's not about, you know, just being lucky. Yes, I have been extremely fortunate, extremely blessed, and extremely lucky in many ways. But I can also tell you it has taken a lot of pain, a lot of like sacrifice, it's taken a lot of effort, it's taken a lot of like, you know, ability to be able to swallow abuse, insult, shame, blame, complain, games that we all encounter during our lives. But you can sit down there and cry, or you can say, you know what, okay, it is what it is, and just keep going. So I think that these attributes, you know, a combination of these attributes always help in keeping you clear-headed, and keep going. So no attachment, let it do it because you know it's going to be great, and then it becomes great. So you just manifest it eventually, right?
Yep. So while you're achieving all of this, Nicole, it's quite incredible because, how do you keep your feet on the ground while reaching for the sky? And in and around you, you're working with events, you're working with what I call bling. There's a lot of bling around you. How do you remain grounded? How do you remain real? How do you remain who you are, and how I know you and love you as a person? While all this nonsense and all this noise is going on, the bling noise is going on around you.
Applaud the bling. Be there applauding it. You don't have to necessarily be the one in the bling, right? You're still in the bling circle. You know, and I think when you're there to applaud, because I believe people are power. And I think everyone's beautiful, and I think everybody's gorgeous. You know, and everybody's got great strengths and great powers. And all of us have it when we come here, and we just need to know how to shine it and, you know, play out what we're supposed to play out. It's when we desire to be somebody else, or we want somebody else to be us, is when the problem starts. When you want life to go on our terms, you know, is when the problems or the issues start. Like I said, we, you know, our ethical code or our work ethics or our values keep changing. I mean, I remember as a young girl, of course, I wanted to have, you know, what I wanted to have, and, you know, for whatever reason. Today, it doesn't matter. You can put $1 billion in front of my face, and it's like, if it's not for the right reasons, I don't want it. Give it to somebody else to do a better job. You know, I mean, we aspire things, but we don't want to be responsible for it, right? We want the big house, but do you want to, you know, manage the maintenance of it, manage all the staffing that goes with it, ensure it's always maintained and kept properly? No. But you want the big house. You want the big car, but do you know how to maintain it? Do you know how to manage it? Do you know anything about it? Do you have the funds to be able to pay for the rest of it? No. But you see, we want things without knowing that we need to be responsible for that, you know? So the more you're willing to be responsible for something, the more you get, you expand yourself, and the more you receive to be able to manage that, because that's what we're doing. We're only managing energy here. Money, wealth, all these aspects, businesses are all energies, right? And how you manage this energy so as the energy to constantly be in, you know, good space and to grow is what our purpose is here, right?
Indeed, and I over the last decade or so, I've also seen you develop in many different ways, building what the world sees as depth and substance and connectivity. You work with YPO, you are Harvard Business School graduate, and we're alum there. You've done other kind of activities. You have won hundreds and hundreds of awards. I mean, every award I can think of, you've won. And the recent one as the top entrepreneur was another one. When all of this was happening around you, do you feel that you arrived? Did you feel that this is what I wanted to be? Were your parents proud of you? Were your kids happy? What were your emotions at that time?
Well, to be honest, I never, ever imagined that I would be here. I mean, if you asked me this 30 years ago and asked the 20-year-old me if I was like, Did you see yourself where did you expect yourself to be where you are today? I would say definitely not. I would not even have imagined it, And I think that I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful and that I can be an inspiration to many women out there and men likewise, the young youth. Because I think the youth are the most important because they're our next generation. And that, I can by example, show you that greatness is possible in your lifetime. So for me, if you say that, how do I feel about it? I'm grateful, I'm very thankful, but a lot of times I'm very surprised thinking, why? What did I do that was so fantastic? I just do what I do. I did not do this because I wanted, this. I just happened to come across it, and I'm just very grateful that by chance I am the one who has been chosen for it. So I play that role out, but it doesn't consume me, it doesn't touch me. I am the same person I am. If you ask people who've known me for like the past 30, 40 years, they'll tell you I'm exactly the same person. I haven't changed. I can still run around and have a bhel puri or whatever in Dubai, and I can sit in Burj Al Arab and have a fine dining dinner with you as well. So for every situation and occasion, it's important to be me, and I am me. And if you think that my watch or my shoes or my car is going to define me, then you don't know what's important.
Indeed.
And I think
Indeed.
that's important.
I think that's genuinely important, and I think your authentic self, which I have seen more and more of more recently, has drawn me much closer to you. Otherwise, you're almost intimidating, like scary Nicole. You have to be careful.
I'm so flamboyant when I come out. It's the presence. I walk in, and my aura is so vast that everybody seems to like step back.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're just the lovable, huggable Nicole. So that's maybe I'll have to keep that a secret.
You're also stepping in. You see, you're stepping in.
Yeah.
Not many people take the time to step in, right? It's easy
That's
to
right.
see me on a stage in a great, bling bling dress and looks great, fantastic for pictures. Yeah, if that's what you want, I give you that. But is that really me?
Yeah, that's true.
I do.
So moving forward, looking into the future, which is we are on Voices of the Future. So and you are a beautiful, beautiful voice of the future, because some of the ideas that you're coming up with really anchor the future, and I'll talk about that. There's a lot of technology around us, and I know you've embraced a lot of technology within all of your work. I have a thesis, and my thesis is that the more technology and more digitization we have, anything that can be digitized will be, because it'll be 1,000,000 times faster and 1,000,000 times cheaper. But anything and everything that cannot be digitized, love, compassion, harmony, heart, soul, spirit, common sense, judgment, creativity, imagination, intuition, critical thinking, all of these human emotions become 1,000,000 times more valuable. So yes, we can have technology delivering a lot of stuff for us, but to me, it's humanity. So when I look at the future, I look at the future of humanity, not technology. So I believe that technology is there to serve, but humanity is there to lead. All of these attributes, do you feel some of that? And I know intuitively you do it anyway. But can we do it consciously in terms of, let's say, your children, for example? When I sat there and spoke to your kids, I shared something similar. I was sharing about the more human aspects, while both your son and daughter were talking about tech and social media and numbers. And I said, time out. It's all about love and compassion and humanity and stuff. And it was a very interesting engagement. What are your views on getting our young people to understand that, and getting us as more grown-ups to understand that to build the future?
I think I love technology. I've always loved technology. I remember when I was younger, I love being in Dubai because, we are very strong in technology compared to, at least access to technology compared to a lot of the other places in the world. And I think the human aspect is key, because technology actually supports and drives the human aspect, right? Creativity for starters, facilitation of things, making things easier for you, So in a lot of ways, technology is key and very, very important. I don't think today anybody will walk out without a phone, because that gives you access to a helpline for starters, or food, or your basic necessities. Now, otherwise, you'll have to walk all the way down to I don't know how many kilometers before you can get yourself a sandwich and bottle of water. Now, number one is that your question was to me was that the human aspect. I truly believe that that the next generation is so hugely misunderstood, and I think that a lot of times we're just slagging the next generation. I don't know for what, because I think the next generation is always better than the generation before. They have different tools. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I'm from the 70s, right? And I remember seeing black and white TVs in the 70s. And I remember we had the first TV in the house, and all the neighbors used to come and sit in our house to watch TV. And at some point, my brother and I were like sitting on the TV all the time, because we were like, so wow, And my father used to throw us out and say, you're going to sit in front of the idiot box, and this is another way, and you're going to not go and read something, and because if you're not, it's not going to work, blah, 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 blah. But honey, I entered the TV box and I entered the media space, and I did very well at it too. So I don't believe that technology is a bad thing. And I think that a lot of our generation actually are extremely more aware, a lot more conscious, because they have access to, better health systems, they understand, what is good for them and what is not good for them. They understand value systems. They understand spirituality, which we didn't have access to much later because of technology.
I'm not criticizing technology for the sake of technology. What I am saying is that human aspects of ethics and judgment and all of those things, because AI is not biased, we are. So all of the things, I mean, we can be, AI can start becoming biased against women, against color, against this, that, and the other. But we are the ones that are putting all the nonsense within the AI. And therefore, we need to be ethical, and we need to be more human and have a moral center. So technology is fine because it'll facilitate things. I am not an anti-technologist at all. On the contrary. But what I'm saying is that the infusion of our value system, of the human elements within technology, is what's critical. And our young people, and us, both of us, we need to be able to be conscious of that and say, AI needs to be ethical.
95% of the world is ethical. You have the 10% off. I don't think I don't think the ratio is more unethical than ethical. I think the ratio is definitely more ethical than unethical. I think lack of exposure, lack of understanding, lack of learning could probably cause people to be unethical. But if they are taught it, or trained it, then you wouldn't have that issue so much.
So I'll move to another area, which is greed, because I think the world is becoming extremely greedy, and the hypercapitalism, especially the United States style of hypercapitalism, is becoming ridiculous. So it's all about greed and money and achievement and so on, and therefore you just need to make money. So I was involved in a project on machine learning and drones about 5-6 years ago. And I had something very simple, I mean, very naive and innocent of me to sort of suggest that drones or any kind of machinery should not be used to kill, full stop. So we have regulators for finance, we have regulators for nuclear, we have regulators for this. So let's have a regulator for drones. And the regulator for drones is going to say drones shall not kill, full stop. If any company creates a drone that kills, it should be closed down. To me, that's an ethical position. To me, that's a courageous position to take, very naively so. And guess what? The first thing that people developed drones for was killing. It's killing all over the world. It's killing in Ukraine, it's killing in Gaza, it's killing in Yemen, it's killing in Afghanistan. It's kill, kill, kill. Why? Because you make money, and the Greek clicks it. So what I'm saying is, here's technology being used in a negative kind of way. So my question to you was that you evolved to that level where you can be a thought leader by saying, listen, folks, we've got to look at this human stuff so that our tech stuff can serve us rather than take over from us. Because now the drone genie is out of the bottle. Drones kill. We can't unkill drones. And in a similar way, AI and generative AI, where it's going, I call it a weapon of mass destruction. I call generative AI, unless it's properly managed and controlled and have the guardrails and so on, just like nuclear fission, it is a weapon of mass destruction. Now, actually, generative AI is stronger than nuclear because it reproduces, learns, recreates, and develops by itself. And by definition, it can grow and become a complete total monster if you're not careful. And there are no guardrails. People are too busy making money. So where I'm going with this, in a very Pollyannish kind of a way, an idealistic kind of a way, is that thought leaders, you, me, and all of the 100 voices within the Voices of the Future and so on, is going to say, time out, guys. We've got to make our AI ethical. We've got to make our machine learning, which is not anti-human. We've got to do these kinds of fundamental things. Otherwise, what kind of a world are we leaving behind to our kids?
Yeah. So one, you and I cannot go out there and buy a drone that can kill. True? True. The one who has access to something like that is either governments or, or ultra high net worth individuals who are in businesses.
We can influence policy, though. We can influence companies, though.
I'm coming there. I think that a lot of times we, and each to their own, of course, but I can tell you about myself. I do not really, unless and until I cannot actively do something in a certain space, I don't spend my energy there. So, I mean, it's not my expertise. I will not want to make a statement on it. I'm not a politician. I'm not a government. I have zero interest in politics or government, or war technique. It's not my thing. Ask me about media, ask me about creativity, ask me about, how you can build your business, ask me about startups, ask me about scaling, ask me about real estate, and I'm more than happy to sort of add value. But in a space that is beyond my understanding, experience, I would not want to make a statement, because that would only be illusion and a hypothetical. You know what I mean? And I do not have the influence as well to. I do not have the. I have the support system to be able to influence or change anything in that space.
So individual voices are strong, and this is part of what the thesis of Voices of the Future is. But collective voices and amplified voices and collective consciousness can potentially give us collective impact. And I think those are the key elements we can bring together. So you mentioned a few things that you are genuinely good at, and let's delve into those, and then we'll start working towards the end. As an entrepreneur, and as a person who's seen a lot of startups around her and so on, there's the big fat F word. It's called failure. Can you give us an example of a spectacular failure and how you handle failure?
Not an F word. It's actually a great word, because you see, the thing is that if you fail at something, it's because you missed something, right? And you've got to find out what they're missing. And it's a game. So you've got to treat it like a game. You've got to not attach to the result, and find out how you could have swung this differently to have a different result. And then once you figure that out, you try it again. And you try it again, and you try all these different ways till you get it right. And then you learn a new way of getting out of it. So you see, when you treat failure like a game and a learning experience, you enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, you keep going. But if you think of it as, because you're attached to the outcome and you're not getting the outcome you want, you frustrate and, create anxiety and sort of like demean yourself. And that's just not the way you're going to jump out of it. So you got to focus yourself on how to find a solution to any situation where you sort of backfired from the anticipation how that would roll out.
Right? Indeed. So I have what I call I have what I call the 5 F's of failure. Fail fast, fail frequently, fail frugally, failure is not fatal, and keep failing and moving forward as a learning experience. And I have a 6th bonus F, and that failure is a good F word.
Yes, I love it. I love the failure is a good F word. Brilliant. Yeah, good one.
So that's what I always do is I put it down to experimentation, learning, curiosity, and being able to find a way through that. As a mother of 2 young, beautiful children, do you think us as older than them, we're leaving a planet and we are leaving a legacy, which is that we're leaving a good world to them, or are we leaving them in a more complicated space and they have to work shit out?
I think if you ask my parents that question, I think they would answer exactly the same thing that I'm going to answer you. I think every generation thinks that they're leaving a worse world for the next generation, but every next generation proves to the generation before that they do it better than the generation before would have or could have done it, because they have different exposure levels, they have different access of information, which we didn't have in our time. I definitely think that the world is going to be only better. I think focusing on what doesn't work is, yeah, it's possible, but there are so many things that work today, you know. I mean, I can make you a long list of things that are much better than what it used to be. Today, you
100%.
can, you know, sitting in your house, register your car. We didn't have to do that. You know, you
Yeah,
can get your bags, you know, on your online on your phone. During our times, it was not so easy. You know,
we
I
are
mean,
living in the
things have
best
become
time ever. Yeah,
much better. And I
yeah,
think that, you know, if I look in my life too, it's only getting better and better and better and better. You know, so I mean, if you ask me that, do you see, or you know, it going upwards? Absolutely yes. Because I can tell you, when I was down there and I
yeah,
couldn't even imagine what upwards is like, it's easy for me to assume that everything is, you know, there and down from there. But for
yeah,
me, I've only seen more and better during my years of growth.
yeah.
And I assume the same for my children as well. So definitely, yes, we're leaving a great world for our kids behind us.
Brilliant. Okay, I agree with it, and I just love
In
your
great
energy.
hands.
I mean, yeah, and I just love your energy. I wish we'd be doing this thing in person, which we shall. We'll have a follow on at some point in time. Recently I attended something during COP28, and then we gave a globe symbolically to a 13-year-old and handing over the world to them. So I asked the person giving globe, was a very senior person at Amazon, and I said, Dr. Say, you're handing over this globe, but this is a burning globe. That we, as the oldies, have destroyed it almost and giving them a burning planet. We need to fix this before we go and give it across to them. That's the kind of thing I mean, is that I think we need to take greater responsibility, because the way we are in the world today, if we don't take responsibility for things like this, we'll leave a lesser world.
Tarek, I think that, you know, if you actually look back at our own childhoods, right? Yours and mine for that matter, and from the generation we are, we had no exposure on what it meant, you know, where Africa was poor, or there was no water in Africa, or you know, there's like, you know, wars happening in wherever they are happening. You know, I mean, there's like a lot of distort around the world, and aid is required, and you know, more awareness is required. We didn't have that. Our kids have that. They're so aware. You catch one of our kids today and you ask them, and they have a value system, they have an opinion on how, you know, it is important that these issues are a lot of sort of addressed, and you know, there is we put sort of our energy into like sort of fixing it and creating, you know, better systems for, let's say, the homeless. Or my daughter, she's a philanthropist, you know, I mean, she's Miss Denmark 2024. So she's been into a lot of philanthropic activities. She's like talking about homeless. She wants to like go out and help, you know, find, you know, sort of funding, and obviously putting together affordable housing for that matter. You know, this is a 21-year-old. You know, I mean, at 21, I had zero idea, you know, how I was going to get my next job and how I was going to make money. That was my priority. That was the only thing on my head. But today it's not that. So I think our generation, that the tomorrow, I mean, like we say, we call it the voice of the future. I mean, our true voice, the next generation, are brilliant, you know?
It's interesting you're saying that because I have a lot of young people. I have at least 20 people in these voices, which are all very young. The youngest is 8. We have several from a school. I've also created a youth board, which a shadow youth board for one of the companies, and all of the 10 people in the board have been interviewed, and we have quotes from them and their view of the future. So I've actually ensured that the book and this movement carries a really strong voice from the youth. The other side is I also have 80 plus year olds, and 85-year-old is the eldest. And I am looking at them too. And that's wisdom. So you have the youthful energy and you have the wisdom, and we are somewhere in between. And and I'm sort of trying to, have the nexus of all of this and fuse it all together. Nico and I can, we can talk about lots and lots of wonderful things going forward, but let's try and close this beautiful session. And thank you for being so open and flowing as you are, and beautiful energy that you have. So thank you for that. Let's get into a little spaceship, into a little capsule. And it's going to transport us into the future. It's a time travel capsule. And we are traveling to your 100th birthday. And and now both of us are sitting at your 100th birthday. And you're not even halfway there. You're not even at half time. So guess what? Now we're talking about your 100th birthday. What do you see around you? What's happening? What have you done? What is exciting you? And by the way, you're going to be looking just as beautiful as you do today. Why? Because in the future, aging is going to be considered a disease. So you got to take the pill, and your daughter's going to be saying, "Mom, why aren't you taking the anti-aging pill?" So you'll fix yourself within the next 3, 4, 5 years to whatever you look like, or whatever you want to look like. And then that's the way you're going to look at for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So you'll be young and beautiful, and you're 100 years old. What are we celebrating?
Wow, we celebrate the youth, baby. That's what we celebrate. We celebrate the next generation, the generation after. That's what we celebrate. I think that one of the most important reasons why we are here is to serve and procreate and ensure we leave a better, specimen than we came. And how we can empower them and support them and drive them. It's about what we can give and how much, support and nurturing we can offer, rather than how much we want to achieve or receive. And I think when we focus on giving, the receiving comes automatically.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of serving, but I'm not procreating yet. So that's something I need to figure out and sort out.
Well, not continuously,
Not continuously. I hope not. For the next 50 years. No, that's something I need to do.
That's one thing I think that, if we had more attention on it, I think a lot of, I feel that, if we had more attention on like our systems that we built for like people who want to become parents, we would build we would build a better place faster. We always getting better at what we do, but we would just be able to exponentially fasten that process if we were to have better mothers, if we were to have better platforms to be able to, train these mothers, or not train, but, sort of expose them, teach them, advise them on how to be great mothers and how to create sort of great citizens of the future, or voices of the future.
And my final question is, if you were to leave a one-liner, a little message in a bottle, and then we throw it in the sea, and your kids, my kids, to be created, find that message from Nicole from the past, what would that one-liner, what would that core message read for you? What's the most meaningful thing for you?
It would be stop talking, start doing.
Brilliant. On that note, I shall stop talking. Maybe that's the hint that you're giving.
I mean, Tariq, at the end of the day, we can all have illusion and chat about things, but we've got to put it into fruition, and we've got to make it happen. And I think that's an important aspect. It doesn't matter how small or big, but just do it. Just keep going.
Yeah. Nicole, absolutely amazing. Thank you very much indeed for your candid thoughts, your super flowing conversation, amazing ideas, and we're very grateful. And really, I'm humbled that you've been so generous with your time and with your love and affection always. And I feel that that's what makes it all come together. So thank you again. And I hope that this thing is going to be super successful. I dare say I'm going to come to you with the book together and the whole thing. And I'm going to say, can you now give me advice and sprinkle the gold dust on it and say, how is the wings going to do there, and how does it go? Because I know that you've got the magic touch. You really are. What you do, you have that. Touch. Exactly. Well, exactly. Without touching, you're touching, but you do have that gold dust, and some people do, and you just raise that energy, and you raise that. You're vibrating at that level, and I think that energy is what's so important. And hopefully, this movement of creating a great future for your kids or mine would be special. Thank you, Nicole. Absolutely grateful,
Thank
and hope to
you.
see you soon.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you.